Welcome to the show, everybody. It is Monday, June 15th, and we are talking about rankings disputes between Dave and Jamey. We don't have a ton of them. We have 3 of them, and then 2 little bonuses. Jaylen Waddle, Dave much higher than Jamey on Jaylen Waddle. Dave much higher on Travis Etienne. Then, am I allowed to call him that?
Travis Etienne.
Dave is much higher on Travis Etienne than Jamey. Jamey is higher, not much higher, but higher on Jameson Williams than Dave is. 9 spots higher in the overall rankings, 5 spots higher at wide receiver. And then going into yesterday when Jamey updated his rank, before Jamey updated his rankings, Jamey was, they were very far apart on Makai Lemon and David Montgomery. Jamey has moved those guys closer to where Dave is in the rankings. So hey, Jamey, why'd you move Makai Lemon down? Why'd you move David Montgomery up? We will talk about that. And welcome back, Dave.
I'm a little frustrated that there aren't more players that Jamey and I are different on.
There are, but Adam's lazy.
No, I'm looking at our receiver rankings, and I need to say this. Jamey and I do not confer before we post our rankings. We don't say, "Hey, what do you think of Jamar Chase?" "Oh, I like him." "Yeah, me too." It doesn't happen. We haven't done that in Jamey. Have we done that in 20 years? I would say no.
No.
The last time we sat at a desk because we had to have one set of rankings between the two of us, that's distant past. I'm looking at our receiver rankings right now. It's uncanny. We have the same top 11. It's borderline embarrassing. I almost want to change my rankings just so it's not this way, but we come up with this independently, and now I'm wondering, are we even lucky to have 3 differences? This is crazy to me. So,
well, I'm sure if you looked at most rankings compared to ADP, there's a lot of similarities with almost everybody.
But God bless Heath, because Heath is he's great for this segment. He's always got these outliers. Your quarterback rankings are pretty similar. You have the same, not the same exact top 8, but no one is more than 1 spot apart in the rankings at quarterback. Like Jaden Daniels is 5 for Jamey, 6 for Dave. Jalen Hurts is 5 for Dave, 6 for Jamey. Same with Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert. Whatever. I could have done Trevor Lawrence unless that was just recent change. I didn't notice. Jamey has Lawrence 9th and Dave has Lawrence 12th. But
yeah, and Caleb Williams 2 spots apart. Apparently, that's huge.
But one of the things I wanted to do today is, we've had a lot of content lately. We've talked about the same players kind of over and over again, especially guys in rounds, I'd say 2 through 4. So we haven't talked a ton about Etienne or Etienne, Travis. David Montgomery, we pretty much never talk about. Jameson Williams, I've been wanting to get into Jameson Williams for a while. We don't talk about him. I know it seems like, Dave, you talk about Waddle a lot, but I feel like it's been a while since we really went in depth on him. So that's one of the goals today.
It's been a Waddle since we talked about Waddle.
It's been a while. But you guys were both away. So if you want to tell me real quick, how was your week? I missed you guys. Jamey, eventful week for you.
Yeah, very. 2 baseball tournaments, one in Ocala, Florida, one in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. My 8-year-old finished 2nd in the state for his tournament. So now we play in regionals against, I think, 8 other states. So that'll be fun in a couple weeks. And then my 11-year-old played in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, which is an amazing tournament, Cal Ripken tournament. They got to meet Billy Ripken. I was late driving from Ocala to Pigeon Forge. My son was already there, so I got to meet Billy Ripken and play in a really awesome venue in Pigeon Forge. Went 4-1 in pool play. Lost in our first elimination game in the gold bracket, but it was great baseball. He did great, and just a really cool city. Really, really fun time.
Fun. So he met Billy Ripken. Did he bring up the baseball card?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Does he know about the baseball card?
I don't think he does.
I think you've got to show him the baseball card.
Yeah.
Oh, I know this reference, but I don't remember it.
Oh, Adam. It's okay if you're younger than Adam and you don't get the reference, or if you've never even touched a baseball card in your life, that's fine. But if you were around in the 80s, 90s, you know Bill Ripken for one reason and one reason only.
Yes, amazing. All right, Dave, honestly, I'm sorry. We're getting too long to get into the show. We'll hear about your trip to Vegas in a little bit later.
I'm not sharing a single detail.
No, come on. The people want to know. News and notes.
All right, fine. I did some gardening, volunteered at a morgue, Combed the sand in the desert. What else do you want to know?
Oh, you combed the desert. How about that?
We ain't found.
All right. All right. News and notes. All right. Let's start with Travis Etienne. Kellen Moore called Travis Etienne an every down back. So that's pretty cool. We'll talk about him in a moment. George Pickens did not say if he'll attend minicamp, which begins Tuesday. Sean Payton signed a 5-year contract extension. All right. Jamie, I'm going to give you a couple of running back, actually 3 backfield notes here. So this is the second straight year where Aaron Glenn, the coach of the Jets, said he wants a 3-headed monster in the Jets backfield. It did not play out that way at all. Weeks 1 through 3, when Braylon Allen was healthy, Isaiah Davis had 3 touches combined. But okay, there's that. So Aaron Glenn talking about using 3 backs. Todd Bowles for the Bucs saying that Kenneth Gainwell is the 1B running back. And by the way, Bucky Irving did get back on the practice field, which is good news. He's got that shoulder thing. And then John Shipley, it seems like every day we get a fun fantasy report, from or fantasy relevant report from Shipley covering the Jaguars. He said that the starting running back for the Jaguars hasn't been determined yet. He also talked up Parker White. He's been very high on a lot of Jaguars players, but no clarity yet in the Jaguars backfield. So we got the Jets, the Bucs, the Jaguars. Jamie, your thoughts there?
The Jets, I think, is something Aaron Glenn wants. We'll see what Frank Reich wants and see how this all plays out. Braylon Allen had the best shape of his life quote, so that's always fun to see for this time of year. Look, I'm sure they want to use their running backs in all of them in some capacity. What would make sense is using Allen in short yardage work and giving him some goal line opportunities. Maybe using Isaiah Davis in some passing down opportunities. But I think just in the case of Breece Hall, you hope this drives down his ADP and you get him at a better price than round 3. If you get him around 4, I think that's just a little bit of a safer spot for him, given the uncertainty of this team, as we've talked about time and time again. How many scoring opportunities will he get? Will he be, back to that pass catching back that we saw in year 2? So I still think there's a lot to love about Breece Hall. I wouldn't necessarily make this something that scares you off. The New Orleans situation is something that we still have to see how it plays out because of Alvin Kamara being there. It would be great if he's, on another team. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case as of now, but you never know if a team offers something that a trade package that or any trade offer that makes some sense for him to want to leave New Orleans and maybe get a chance to play a little bit more. But this is something we'll talk about just with my concerns with Travis Etienne. And then in the case of the Jaguars, Chris Rodriguez has not been healthy, so the fact that he hasn't been practicing with them is only giving Bashal Tutin more of an opportunity. And I think something to keep in mind is we've said numerous times since he signed there, he has a history of Liam Cohen. He's played for Cohen before. This is part of the reason why I'm sure Cohen wanted to get him. He hasn't played for Liam Cohen in I think it's 5 years. And so
it was only for 1 year when he did.
And he wasn't even the head coach then. I know he was position coach. Bashal Tutin was in the system last year. Bashal Tutin was, a running back on this team last year. He knows what Liam Cohen wants. And so you referenced me moving David Montgomery. I shuffled. There's like 4 or 5 running backs in that range. Part of it was because of the competition of some of the other guys. Chuba Hubbard, for example, Jonathan Brooks just continues to get more and more positive reports. So I moved Hubbard down and moved Montgomery up. I moved Tutin up as well. So Tutin is another guy that had a jump in the rankings because of the positive training camp reports. And it's not just John Shipley. Pete Prisco was there. He's been very impressed with what he was very impressed with what he saw from the offense. Very impressed by Brian Thomas. Very impressed by Parker Washington as well. But not to get off topic, but he says Brian Thomas looks like the guy that we saw in his rookie season, which is kind of scary. So that was another guy that was big rankings riser for me.
Love seeing the headlines about Brian Thomas being like the all-star at practice, or what did they say? Off-season MVP might have been the term that they used for Brian Thomas. That's not Prisco who said, although Prisco, like he told me the same thing he told you. That's what is a big difference from BTJ from last year, because last year apparently he was not practicing very well. This year he is. Man, I'd love to see that jump because we know how good he was 2 years ago. With you on Tutin. Breece Hall, like if you don't want to be scared off by the 3-headed monster thing, that's fine. Frank Reich's history, I'll say this again, he has always used multiple running backs, a running downs back, a passing downs back. Go look at Naheem Hines' numbers in Indianapolis. Go look at other stops that Frank Reich had, San Diego, Philadelphia. There's always been 2. 3 times in 10 seasons did a running back average 15-plus PPR under Frank Reich. So I am nervous about Breece Hall reaching any kind of ceiling this year.
Well, yeah, and just to go back to last year, it wasn't a 3-headed monster the first 3-4 games. Isaiah Davis, like I said, 3 touches the first 3 games. But Braylon Allen was starting to carve out a role. I mean, it's such a small sample size. But weeks 1 and 2, Breece Hall dominated carries. He had 29 carries, and Allen had 8. Week 3, Breece Hall had 9 carries. Braylon Allen had 6. It was a blowout going into the fourth quarter. Week 4, Braylon Allen had 4 carries, but all of them were on the opening possession. And then he fumbled at the goal line, and then he tore his ACL. So I don't know what to make of that, but weeks 3 and 4, it was becoming a more even split.
You know, last year I was so high on Braylon Allen. Like that was a guy was, drafting almost in every league, and, thought he was going to have a role in some capacity. And then obviously if there was a Breece Hall injury, could have been a lottery ticket, but it just never came to pass because of the injury. We don't know how it would have played out.
All right. Let's see some more news here. There's really a lot. And then we'll get into the rankings. Braden Gall writes for PaulKuharski.com, said that Cam Ward was very inaccurate in practice. Robert Saleh has been praising Cam Ward. But, we saw it with Jackson Dart, too. These are second-year quarterbacks who have new offensive coordinators, and they're going through an adjustment period right now. This was really interesting. Thomas Martinez of Sports Illustrated thinks that Quentin Johnston is going to thrive in Mike McDaniel's offense because of his yak abilities. And, he basically said that Johnston's sort of been miscast as this Mike Williams ex-receiver, that kind of replacement for him, but he's not. He's going to be better with yak, better after the catch. And we're going to get quicker passes in this offense from Justin Herbert. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that Quentin Johnston can do that, but it really seems like Ladd McConkey is much more suited for that. And I went and I watched a lot of tape last night of air yard of targets to both of those guys from 0 to 8 air yards. And the way Ladd McConkey can get open on these short routes is just, his route running is unbelievable. And Johnson is not, to me, he's not as good at that. I don't know. Jamey, who do you think would benefit more from this offense, Johnston or McConkey?
So it's funny you reference that because there's been almost nothing said about Ladd McConkey. And sometimes the quiet is almost good. So, I'm definitely more in the McConkey camp and expecting him to have a bounce back season, hopefully close to what we saw in his rookie campaign from a production standpoint. But I think in the case of Johnston, this is just a positive. I mean, everything for him really has been a positive. The fact that as of now, there's no Keenan Allen. I guess that's good for both of them, but no Keenan Allen. You have Mike McDaniel coming in. You have a guy that gets his 5th-year option picked up, a player that just has quietly produced when things around him have been in a, I don't want to say perfect scenario, but, when the offensive line was healthy last year, those first 4 games, he was, over 17 PPR points per game in those 4 on average. Yeah. So I think just looking at it, he's one of the best values you can find. This was another guy that moved up about 10 spots in my rankings and, may get, right now he's at 39 at receiver. He may get close to 30, by the time this gets to August. I'm just excited about him. Back-to-back years with 8 touchdowns. I mean, I'm all in on the Chargers this year. So yeah. I think just looking at it, he may price himself out of just being that late round ish type of guy, back end of the mid round selections. But there's just so much upside here. If Mike McDaniel's offense takes hold with Justin Herbert being a significant upgrade over to Tua Tagovailoa, and it's just more targets and more opportunities for everybody. Quentin Johnston, it wouldn't shock me if he's a 10 touchdown guy. Again, 8 touchdowns each the last 2 years, and should be over 1,000 yards if he stays healthy. Can he get you 75 catches? I think that's realistic. So just a easy auto pick when you get to that 4th receiver spot in your roster.
Okay. Let's see. Chris Olave still recovering. So I mentioned this, I think, on Thursday's show, which, by the way, Thursday's show, we had Ryan Heath on, and he said his pick to be the next JSN is Ladd McConkey. So go back and listen to that if y'all are interested. It was fascinating stuff. What'd you say?
I said that's interesting.
Yeah, he's basing it on the personnel change, that they're going to go to a lot more 2 receiver sets. And when receivers are on the field with fewer wide receivers on the field, fullbacks instead of receivers or blocking tight ends instead of receivers, they're going to get targeted more often. It happened for JSN last year. He speculates McConkey is the best bet for that. Anyway, Chris Olave is something I think we mentioned at the end of Thursday's show. Let's keep an eye on it here. See if he's ready for training camp, but he had the blood clot. He still hasn't fully recovered from it.
I mean, there are some interesting tea leaves here, are there not? Hasn't been practicing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The team just took Jordan Tyson with their first pick, top 10 pick. They haven't extended Olave yet. I'm not going to get worried now. I'm still going to draft him like everything's cool. But if we get to training camp and he's on the PUP list or not practicing, like you kind of can smell that something's up here.
Dolphins note. Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald says Malik Willis needs to improve his processing, get through the reads faster, and he thinks Jalen Tolbert has separated himself from the other wide receivers. In the same article, he said that none of the wide receivers, I think he said none of them would be starting on other teams.
I think he's right about that.
Yeah. The NFL is no longer reviewing Stephon Diggs, violating the personal conduct policy, so Diggs could sign soon. Seems like there won't be any suspension or anything like that. The Falcons got some tackle depth, offensive tackle depth, acquiring Wanya Morris from the Chiefs for a swap of late-round picks. And Tony Rank of the Denver Post said Evan Ingram is looking good and could be more involved in the offense. Take that for what it's worth. Harold Fannin Jr. missed all of OTAs and minicamp with an undisclosed injury. And we had a report from ESPN that Isaiah Bond and Denzel Boston were the most targeted receivers in minicamp and OTAs. Been a lot of Boston buzz, but Bond, apparently he added 15 pounds of muscle. He wants to be more than just a deep threat. He wants to work in the middle of the field. And he was a late round pick, but that was because 2 years ago.
Was he a late round pick or was he undrafted? I think he was undrafted, Adam.
He was undrafted.
Okay. Well, that was because of off field stuff.
Yep.
He was certainly more talented than that. I mean, I think we were preparing for Isaiah Bond to maybe be a day 2 pick. And then the sad news that Aldon Smith was just such an unbelievable player, and unfortunately, tragically passed away on Saturday at age 36. He played for the Niners, the Raiders, and the Cowboys. Aldon Smith, top 10 pick, just terrific talent, and really sorry to see the news. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll get into our rankings disputes on Fantasy Football Today.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
Welcome back, folks. At the end of the show, we had an interesting comment on YouTube about which sport has the best athletes. Like football players are the best athletes. Soccer players are the best athletes. And I don't mean European football. I mean the different sports. Someone had a comment. I thought it was interesting. We're going to talk about it. Don't forget to listen to Beyond the Box Score. Got their own YouTube channel. You can watch it there. You can listen to the audio feed, whatever it is. Beyond the Box Score. Great stuff. Rankings disputes. Here we go. Jaylen Waddle, 39th for Dave in the overall rankings. 56th for Jamey. And Heath has him closer to Jamey, but in the middle, 49th overall. Dave loves Waddle, and you have since the trade. You've been excited about this fit.
I think anytime you've got a receiver with the potential to get, let's call it 90 catches, 1,000+ yards, 7+ touchdowns, I think you have to at least make plans to target somebody like that if the draft price is appropriate. And I think when we're talking about Jaylen Waddle, I'm not sure of his ADP as far as consensus goes, but I like him round 4, maybe even late round 3 in full PPR. I think he can get you there, and I think he can actually get you higher than that. I think Denver's changing their offense around. I would expect them to have a lot more air raid concepts with Davis Webb calling plays. That means a lot of shorter throws, designed screens, slants, stuff like that. Those are all things that we've seen Jaylen Waddle do well at in the past. We've also seen Waddle do well on intermediate stuff and deep stuff, and that'll be included into what the Broncos are doing. They needed somebody like this. They needed somebody with versatility and speed in their offense because they couldn't make it happen with some of the other receivers that they had, the Marvin Mims, the Troy Franklins, etc. Pat Bryant, another name to throw on there. I think Waddle's going to be a big deal in Denver. And I'm going to want to have somebody with that type of target opportunity on my fantasy team. I know that he hasn't been great for fantasy the last 2 years in Miami. There's a reason for it. He was on my bust list for it. It was because Tyreek Hill was there. Devon Etienne was there. They had a quarterback who was getting rid of the ball as fast as he possibly could because he didn't want to get hit. That obviously helped Etienne quite a bit in the check down game, and it took away opportunities from Jaylen Waddle. I think there's a huge upside here, and I want to bank on that when I'm drafting. Love to get him as a wide receiver 2. If you're in a draft where people aren't in love with him and you get him as your wide receiver 3, I think you're going to really be happy with it. Last point, 12 games with 6+ targets in 2025. He had at least 14 PPR points in 8 of them. That's in Miami. Different offense, worse quarterback. He's going to be in a better situation now. I'm buying Jaylen Waddle.
All right, I'll queue up Jamey. Go ahead, Jamey. I thought maybe you'd just jump in there. But
No. What do you expect him to average points per game, Dave?
I think he can get to 14 points per game.
Okay. I hope so. That's what he was at the start of his career when there was nobody really to share targets with from 2021 to 2023. The last 2 years, 9.9 points and 12.1 points per game. And my concern is, and somebody just brought this up in the chat, is Courtland Sutton. And so you mentioned Tyreek Hill, and obviously Courtland Sutton is not Tyreek Hill. That goes without saying. But what we've seen from this offense, and if you just want to go by last year where they were top 5 in pass attempts with 615, the number one guy in terms of targets was Courtland Sutton at 134 targets, right? No, 124 last season. 135 was the year before. Second on the team was Troy Franklin with 104. And so will they continue to spread the ball around to a point where Jaylen Waddle doesn't get the targets that he needs to be this level of production that you're talking about? I think he'll be just a little bit below that, which is why he's, ranked a little bit lower. And I wouldn't take him probably till mid round 4 at the earliest. I would prefer to get him in round 5. You mentioned, target opportunities, and I'm just looking at guys that I have ranked around him, and I could see the same target opportunities for DJ Moore in Buffalo, maybe better. Ladd McConkey in for the Chargers, better. Terry McLaurin certainly better from a target standpoint. All those guys I would take ahead of Jaylen Waddle. And so Sutton turning 30, is he going to start to really take a downturn in production and really more so opportunities? Is Troy Franklin just going to disappear? Is Pat Bryant not going to be a part of this? Is Marvin Mims not going to be a part of this? That's certainly a possibility. And then you look at the run game, and does, Sean Payton, we know, very big fan of throwing to his running backs. Now they add another guy in Jonah Coleman. You just got the report that Adam said about Evan Ingram. He's still going to be a part of this. I know, not a big part of this. So it's not so much that Jaylen Waddle shouldn't be the best receiver in Denver. It's not so much that he shouldn't have an opportunity to be a very good number 2 wide receiver. I just don't see the heights that you expect him to get to. So that's my concern, is that he's going to be part of the mix, the top of the, leaderboard there in terms of opportunities and the chance to be the best receiver for the Broncos. I almost in step with these projections from Sportsline, which is I would give him more targets. I would say he's in the 120 range. They have him at 114. I think 75 to 80 catches realistic, right around 1,000 yards receiving. They have him at 975. 6 touchdowns is realistic. He's number 24 for me at wide receiver. Sports at 25. I think that's exactly where he should go.
I think he's going to have to do well on deep balls. It's been the worst part of Bo Nix's, career so far. He's just miserable. 30 or more air yards. 20 more air yards is okay, but once he starts throwing really downfield, he's just awful. And he's going to need to hit Jaylen Waddle, who's got to be the best deep ball threat. So one other thing that concerns me, Jaylen Waddle had a career high 8 end zone targets last year. I don't really want Courtland Sutton. It's one thing when he's the undisputed number 1 wide receiver on the Broncos, which he actually wasn't for a stretch. They were like a 6-17, whatever last year. So this is not a Courtland Sutton thing, but that is something that Sutton has been great at. 14 or more end zone targets, 4 straight years for Sutton. And we see that sometimes with guys, like they just get targeted in the end zone. So I think touchdowns could be like 6 receiving touchdowns as the projection for Sportsline. And I think that makes a lot of sense with Sutton there.
So I think if you're drafting Waddle, hoping that he wins often on deep balls, I think you'll be disappointed for that reason because of what you said. Bo Nix isn't a great deep ball thrower. And I'll concede that in the red zone, Sutton's going to get more work than Waddle. It might be close. Wouldn't be surprised if it's 14 end zone targets for Sutton and like 9 for Waddle. I'm just expecting target versatility plus volume to go Waddle's way.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bo Nix is a guy who has been kind of a boomer bust player on a week-to-week basis. Maybe Waddle will be, a lot of highs. And honestly, that's probably going to be the case for a lot of wide receivers drafted in his range. All right, so wrap it up on Waddle.
Just speaking of Bo Nix, I know the reports have been positive. He's coming off a broken ankle.
Yeah. Just to wrap it up on Waddle, Dave has him as wide receiver 17 in full PPR. Jamie and Heath have him as wide receiver 24. His ADP
should be 18.
Okay.
But it's the same neighborhood.
His ADP is wide receiver 23 right now on Fantasy Pros. Next up, Travis Etienne, 30th in the overall rankings for Dave, 44th for Jamie. Question for Jamie: what is the Kamara part of this? If Kamara were released tomorrow or something, where would Travis Etienne move?
5 or 6 spots up.
Okay, so not quite to where Dave has.
In the overall rankings, probably 1 or 2 spots in the running back ranking.
All right. So, Dave, you're going to be the high guy on Travis Etienne regardless. And go ahead, discuss.
I'm afraid I'm not high enough. I've got him 16th, and he's behind Jacobs, Jeremiah Love, Kyron Williams. Obviously, if there's issues with Jacobs that keep him off the field, he'll go ahead of Jacobs. But Jeremiah Love's in a bad spot. I love the talent, but don't love the spot. Kyron Williams, there's always the Blake Corum dagger hanging over his head. I don't look at Alvin Kamara as some kind of big threat to Travis Etienne. And I love what Kellen Moore came out and said this past week about how he sees him as a 3-down back. He wants to use him creatively. This is an offense on the rise. They're going to have a lot of plays. They're going to run at a fast pace. They've got a good offensive line, and they're in a winnable division. They could run away with the division. I also see a team that's got a bad defense. And so if we're talking about an offense on the rise that's going to play in a lot of high-scoring games that should put points on the board, hell yeah, I'm going to want the engine of that offense, and that's Travis Etienne. And I do think he can get Jamie, you asked me how many points per game do I think Waddle could average? I said 14. I think Etienne can bust through 15 and maybe get to 16. I think it's such a good spot for him. I think he'll get the targets. I think he'll do well, and want this guy to be my RB2 if I can make it happen.
I don't mind him as my RB2. I would just take him later than you would, obviously. You say get to 16 points per game.
Yeah.
Last year was one of the best seasons of his career, 14.9 points per game. We're going to an offense that this is the Kamara part of it, that the coach does not have a great history of throwing to his running backs. And now the guy who is probably best suited to play on passing downs is still staying there. So, yes, they're going to use him hopefully as a 3-down back. But I can't imagine if Alvin Kamara is there, they're not going to use him in some obvious passing down situations. They're going to use him to spell Travis Etienne at some point on running downs too. And so that's got to be a factor in how you approach drafting Travis Etienne, who in 2 of his 4 seasons has been miserable. And 2 of his 4 seasons has been obviously very good, last year being one of them. So, yes, the offense is on the rise, without a doubt. Yes, he's going to be what should be as close to a feature back as you would hope for based on the contract that they gave him. I just wish there wasn't that potential of Kamara still being there and the fact of what Kellen Moore does not do throwing to his running backs. I don't think this is a 2,000-yard guy like he had in Philadelphia with Saquon Barkley. I think that's obvious.
Oh, of course. No.
He does have an injury track record as well. So I think when you look at Travis Etienne, to draft him in round 3 to me is crazy. I don't mind him in round 4. And I would honestly prefer if I can get him later than that in round 5, which I don't think is realistic. But the receptions really is the thing that scares me the most, because if Kamara's there, like, we could be looking at a 30-catch guy.
There's a lot of faith in the Saints offense this year, I would say. And got a lot of faith in Kellen Moore. Are you guys worried about Tyler Shuck taking a step back? And if
you have to be,
yeah, Dave, what's your concern there? And if that did happen, how would that affect Etienne?
Obviously, it would be bad if it happened, but I think Tyler Shuck can be as good as he was last year, maybe a little bit better. let's not forget that they added Tyson. Hopefully Olave's okay. 2 speedy receivers, plus whatever they get out of Juwan Johnson threatening defenses could keep some boxes light. I think that would help Etienne too. I don't want to overrate Etienne and say that he's like Devon Etienne and that he's going to go and get a ton of catches or anything like that. I think Jamey's on par with that. Like maybe 30, 40 catches for Travis Etienne makes a lot of sense. But I think he's going to get a lot of carries. And I don't think you have to worry about who the goal line running back is going to be anymore in New Orleans either. I think it's going to be Travis Etienne. And I think he'll do well there. And I think just being part of a high-scoring offense, I'm going to want running backs on teams that score points. It's kind of a simple theory.
I hope you're right about the goal line thing, but Travis Etienne's been really bad at the goal line. And he was bad in college too. And the Jaguars seem to look for reasons and players to replace him with at the goal line. He in 4 years, he has 28 carries from the 3-yard line or closer. He has scored 9 times on those. The other running backs who are in the same range, 27 to 31 carries from that range, they've all scored at least 12 to 14 touchdown runs, only 9 for Etienne. So I don't know. Etienne. He's just hasn't been very good there, but there's just not a very good depth chart. I think that's the appeal.
Right. Like so if we're going to pull Etienne from the goal line in New Orleans there, is that an area where Kamara could take some numbers away from him? I think that's possible.
He hasn't been that good there either.
Okay. And then so now we're looking at Devin Neal, Kendre Miller. Do they bring Taysom Hill back? Like, I don't know what they're going to do there. So by default, I would lean toward Etienne being that guy. I know he hasn't done well there in the past. Maybe the bulked up offensive line will help him. Maybe that's where Shuck uses his legs a little bit more. So, okay, fine. I don't think Etienne's going to score like 15 touchdowns or anything like that. Jamey said he's not going to be like Saquon Barkley in Saquon Barkley's biggest year, but he's going to get a lot of opportunities and he should be able to do well with them. We saw it last year. He averaged almost 15 PPR points per game. This is going to be a good offense and a good environment to be in. I don't have a problem taking Travis Etienne in round 3.
Okay. One more rankings dispute before we hit a break, and it's Jameson Williams. So, by the way, seeing some comments in the chat, if you're a dedicated diehard listener and you want to hear me talk about the New York Knicks, just stick around to the end because I'm happy to do it. Also, congratulations to the Carolina Hurricanes with a nice 3-0 win last night, and they are Stanley Cup champions. And it's a little bit of a letdown just in terms of sports watching because I've really been enjoying most nights being able to watch one of those finals. But getting ready for Friday, USA World Cup. Got off to a good start. Let's make it 2-0.
Friday. What about Tuesday?
What's that? We're playing Tuesday?
No. Who does your baseball team play?
Oh, is it Yankees White Sox this week?
Yes. A huge showdown in the American League.
Yeah, only one has their big home run hitter.
No, neither of them has their big home
Oh,
run
that's
hitter.
right. They're both out. We have Ben Rice. All right. Anyway, Jameson
Miguel
Williams.
Vargas.
Jameson, whoever that is. Jameson Williams, 68th overall for Jamey, wide receiver 30. 77th overall for Dave, wide receiver 35 in PPR. Heath has him also as wide receiver. Heath has him as wide receiver 26. He should be the dude to talk about Jameson Williams, but fascinating player. PPR is definitely his worst format. He's just not a high catch guy. He's one of the most efficient wide receivers in the NFL 2 years in a row, top 5 in yards per target. But Jamey, you'll take him as wide receiver 30, whereas Dave has him as wide receiver 35. I know it's not a huge difference, but let's talk about Jameson Williams. Jamey.
Yeah, you see Sportsline, if you're watching the show, as wide receiver 21. So, even more so, more positive about, more excited about Jameson Williams than Heath is. I think there's 2 things that kind of keep pulling me back to Jameson Williams, which is one, who exactly is going to be calling plays here for Detroit? Because what did we see last year when Dan Campbell took over play calling duties is when Jameson Williams took off. Now that coincided with Sam Laporta dealing with the back injury. And what is Sam Laporta dealing with right now? A back injury that's still keeping him off the field. So you have 2 things at play here. Is Laporta going to be 100%? Will he stay 100% for the entire season? And then will Dan Campbell continue to call plays as opposed to Drew Petzing, Steve Petzing, Mike Petzing, being the one that's actually the one in charge of all this. So the thing about Jameson Williams is, and I think it's like, where I have him ranked, He's in a similar range of Christian Watson, who I like better, but similar type of player. Same range as Marvin Harrison, who has yet to obviously take that step forward. Same range as Alec Pierce. And you talk about all these guys and what are they known for? Big plays and probably going to have to score a lot of touchdowns, not a lot of volume in terms of their reception totals and targets. Well, Jameson Williams has shown you that he can do that. Jameson Williams' resume is better than those guys. He's on an offense that you can argue is better than those guys as well. And so can he continue to do that and be as productive and still be, a very capable 2? I don't think he's a 1B. I don't think that's fair to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm expecting Laporta to get a huge boost because of the coach and his history of, making plays and the tight end benefiting in that type of offense, the Kevin Stefanski system. But what if that doesn't happen and Campbell's still, pulling the strings a little bit? I think Jameson Williams is still a very good number 3 receiver. So whether you like him at 30 or 35, whether you like him at 26, once you start to get in those range of receivers, I'm going to guess, knowing Heath, he probably has him ahead of Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, certainly ahead of Evans. I know he's not a big Evans guy. All these guys are going to have to score a lot of touchdowns, in my opinion. And Jameson Williams, I think 7 is a realistic number. Like if you're saying touchdown potential, Jameson Williams versus Jaylen Waddle, I would take Jameson Williams upside from a touchdown scorer, even though he's going to get much less targets.
Yes. Okay. We're going to get Dave's rebuttal. It's only 5 spots.
Fewer targets. Excuse me. Let me say it correct. Yeah.
And he really pretty much only needs 100 targets to be good. If he can get that, he should be pretty good. But there's so much to discuss here. All right. So we'll be right back. We'll take a quick break and talk more about Jameson Williams. I'll just leave you with this fun stat because Jamie's somewhat confident in the touchdowns. Over the last 2 years, Jameson Williams has 10 touchdowns of 30 or more yards. He is tied with Jamar Chase for the most in the NFL. No other wide receiver has more than 5 touchdowns of 30 or more yards. Chase and JMO have 10. So you need them. You need those big plays. If you don't get them, it could be trouble, but he gives them to you. All right, we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
You need a hug?
You need a fist?
Crutch.
Crutch, you need anything. I do have one question. We didn't mean right now.
So Jamie's comfortable taking Jameson Williams as a number 3 receiver. It's worth noting he's been a number 2 receiver basically 2 years in a row. I think he was 26th per game in full PPR 2 years ago. And last year he was 21st per game in full PPR. But in 9.5, he's been top 24 2 straight years. And of course, 2 years ago, he actually had averaged more fantasy points per game than he did in 2025, but finished much worse in the overall standings. Okay, Dave, anything you want to add on JMO?
Well, I want to say, first of all, that Jameson Williams, talent-wise, is amazing. And I was intoxicated by it last year. I got him on so many of my fantasy teams in the first half of the year. He was such a disappointment. And then Jamie laid it out. Dan Campbell took over the play calling. Sam Laporta got hurt. Next thing you know, this dude's averaging over 7 targets per game and 16 PPR points per game. And he's a hella fun wide receiver to have on your fantasy squad. I am nervous that was not what reality will be in 2026. I believe Petzing's already confirmed that he'll be the play caller for Detroit. His track record, at worst, he's been top 6 in multi-tight end personnel sets in each of his 3 years in Arizona. His tight end saw a 33% target share in each of those years. They've added Tyler Conklin. That's not a big deal for fantasy, but it is for the type of personnel that they want to use. Laporta sounds like he's going to be ready to go for training camp. Conklin's there. Brock Wright's there. They're going to use a bunch of 2 tight end sets, just like a lot of other teams are going to end up doing. Jameson Williams, he's never really been good when Sam Laporta has been playing.
No.
That's
the myth. There
have been 24 games when Laporta's had 6 or more targets. Jameson Williams has been a non-factor all but 5
that's
times.
6 or more targets. That's not playing. Okay, because there are plenty of games where Sam Laporta plays and he doesn't get 6 or more targets. If you look at the last, I want to say 9 games of 2024, Jared Goff was throwing the ball a ton. So that's the first thing. But you had about a 20% target share for Jameson Williams, 26.5% target share for St. Brown, which is a huge number because which is an important number because last year's target share, St. Brown's target share was over 30%. If it's 26.5%, then we've got room for all 3 guys. But my point is, second half of 2024, JMO out-targeted Sam Laporta and was awesome. And Laporta missed 1 game. He missed 1 game. But if you
And you're not counting that game, obviously.
No, well, if you just look at
You're not counting that game.
If you look at their 17-game paces or their targets per game, Jameson Williams out-targeted Sam Laporta in that stretch.
Okay.
So
that was 2 years and 3 play callers ago.
But that's the most important thing for me to tell people is that I don't think it's as simple as Sam Laporta was healthy and Jameson Williams stunk. Sam Laporta got hurt and Jameson Williams was great. Because, yes, that is true from 2025. It is not true of 2024. And I think that's just an important thing to put on JMO's resume.
I think when you look at Jameson Williams, you got to think about Devontae Smith with AJ Brown. Like they're very similar in terms of you're going to get some spike weeks, you're going to get some disappointing weeks. By the end of the season, he may end up, you said, a number 2 wide receiver. I think that's been the case for Devontae Smith most of his career as well. Yeah. Like there's going to be just some disappointing weeks that you have to deal with. So to me, he's the ideal boom bust wide receiver 3. And when you get those big weeks, you probably win your week because he has those 2 touchdown potential games. Doesn't mean he needs a lot of volume to get there. Doesn't mean he needs to have a lot of catches to get there. I think in the chat, Mike D for 3 says it best. He's a trick or treat fantasy guy. So hard to predict the spike games, but when he has those spike games, you're great.
Right. So you love him in best ball. He's a little bit more appealing in non-PPR because I don't think we can expect him to see
much more
7 targets per game. Sure. But I agree with that he's a boomer bust wide receiver 3. To me, he's sort of a placeholder between the wide receiver 3s that I think can not only be like their floor is inconsistency, but their ceiling is that they can finish as a wide receiver 2, and all the other wide receiver 3s with question marks. So as an example, I've got him ahead of Pearsall, Tyson, Godwin, Jordan Addison, Jacoby Myers. I don't think that's saying much, but to me, he's behind pretty much every other receiver that Jamey named when we started talking about JMO, guys that I think still have upside to be consistent wide receiver 3s, if not wide receiver 2s. That's the Alec Pierce's, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s. BTJ is ahead of Jameson Williams for me. I love the talent. I just don't love the spot. If he were on a different team, he could be in just such a better situation and be used so much more effectively. But it is what it is. He's not going to get more targets than St. Brown. And if we're going to trust Drew Petzing's track record with tight ends, that means that Sam Laporta is the guy that you're going to want to get first. And JMO's going to be the guy that you put on your bench, and then you have questions every week about whether or not you start him.
Last thing on JMO, again, he's wide receiver 30 for Jamey, 35 for Dave. This is full PPR, which is his worst format. And of all the players in fantasy football, he's among the most format dependent. Low catch, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards per catch. Anyway, his ADP on CBS, it's 30th at wide receiver. On Draft Sharks and Fantasy Pros, full PPR, it's 24 and 25. That's too early because that's almost best case scenario.
Well, again, look at Sportsline.
Yeah, they've got 21st.
I mean, a guy with 63 catches for this season, I just don't see how that's going to be 21st, but all right.
He's super lovable because he's so fast and he's improved his game, seems to have his head on straight. Like he's easy to root for. He's easy to want on your fantasy team, but just the track record and the environment that he's in this year, especially. Let's put it this way. If you're not a believer in Laporta, then yeah, go get Jameson Williams. Or if you're not a believer in Amon-Ra St. Brown, but why the hell would you not be a believer in Amon-Ra St. Brown?
It wouldn't shock me if his ADP rises if Laporta's injury lingers more.
Oh, and then you can take everything that I just said and throw it in the closest dumpster. Because if there's no Laporta, the track record is there that Jameson Williams will see an uptick in targets.
I got to say, I think if Amon-Ra St. Brown has a target share over 30% or 30% or higher, I think one or both of Laporta and Jameson Williams is going to be a bust.
Then Amon-Ra St. Brown's ranked too low.
Yeah, seriously. He's been close to 30%.
He had it last year. But 2 years ago when both guys were healthy, it was about 26, 27%. But even last year when both guys were healthy, it was like 31.5% or something. He had a huge bump in target share last year.
He did. He averaged almost 2 more targets per game last year.
31.3% last year. It was 27% in 2024. And 2024 was a good year for JMO. And I think it was a good year for Laporta too. I don't really remember exactly.
Yeah, that was his second year, right?
Yeah. It wasn't amazing, but it was good. All right, Jamey made a couple of rankings adjustments. Makai Lemon down to wide receiver 45. Dave has Lemon at wide receiver 51. Heath currently has him at wide receiver 43. Jamey, you also moved David Montgomery up from RB27 to RB23, which is exactly where Dave has him. And Heath is at RB27 for Montgomery now. But let's start with Lemon. Why did you move him down? I think it was, 25-ish spots in the overall rankings, maybe more?
His injury. I mean, the fact that he's hurt now is not encouraging. So he gets healthy for camp. He'll move up a few spots, but it was a lot of reshuffling with that whole wide receiver group. Moving Thomas up, moving Washington up, moving Downs up higher, moving Pearsall up a few spots. I'm trying to think of other guys that shuffled around there. I moved Tyson down too, just the injury for both those guys. So I was probably too high on them to begin with. And then just dropping both of them, behind a handful of wide receivers was a big reason why. But the fact that Lemon's not healthy right now is not encouraging. I don't care about the Dontavian Wicks, doing well as the number 2 receiver. That's more, I think, just the fact that Lemon's not there. But obviously the fact that, injuries are never encouraging. Soft tissue injuries are never encouraging at all, especially for someone that's got to learn a playbook and get on the same page as his quarterback. So I'm hoping for a strong second half from Makai Lemon. I'm expecting a slow start for him just based on, if he misses any time in training camp.
Yeah. I'm scared that I'm going to draft Makai Lemon and end up cutting him after the first 3 or 4 weeks because he doesn't get off to a big start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there could be like a Washington running back that you like that might.
Oh, okay. I
always forget that guy's name. Who was it again?
That you dropped him for?
I dropped Jefferson for
Peyton the Beefcake Barber. Nice going. But it happens to all of us. We all make mistakes. Some are just worse than others. I would say that I think Lemon fits into what Philadelphia wants to do with Sean Mannion calling the plays. And I'm not surprised that Dontavian Wicks is getting some fluff after minicamp because he was in this offense last year. It's Green Bay's offense. It's a West Coast offense. Same stuff that's being run over like 3/4 of the league. But Lemon is like perfect against zone coverage, finding those soft spots, making plays after the catch. He has good hands. It's about whether or not Jalen Hurts is going to be willing to throw to those spots. I think he can. I just don't. I don't know if I really want to. I don't want to. This is almost the same thing I said about Jameson Williams. I love the talent. I hate the situation for him. And on top of that, this is going to be a team in Philadelphia that's not going to throw the ball a ton. They just don't do that. And so I love Lemon. Got him on my dynasty team and all that jazz. But I'm expecting maybe the second half of this year, maybe 2027 is when we start to see him really flash and make a big impact.
Do you really love Lemon, or are you just saying that?
What do you mean?
Sorry, I'm trying to find the exact quote. It's you said you love Lemon, but it's like, do you really love Lamp, or are you just saying that because it's the first thing you saw?
His last name is Lemon, not Lamp.
I know, but it sounded like you're like, I love Lemon. It sounded like I love Lamp. All right, and then David Montgomery.
I don't know how your brain works. It is weird.
Yeah, that is something about me, is that I'm often reminded of random movie and TV quotes. It happens.
Sure. I do too. I just don't say them out loud in the middle of the
Some
show.
people probably heard you say I love Lemon and thought about.
Did anybody in the chat think of I love Lamp when I said I love Lemon? Jamey, did you think of I love Lamp?
No.
Okay.
Someone
Jamie's
said,
brain is working fine.
Someone in the chat said Brick killed the guy. It's true.
Such a great movie.
It really is. What's the best Will Ferrell movie?
I think Anchorman might be
Anchorman.
Elf is up there, obviously. Anchorman or Elf.
Talladega Nights is good too.
Oh, here comes Thomas with a hot take.
No hot takes.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you guys to say something else that was stupid.
Well, I think you could say old school. I just don't know if you'd call that I think old.
No, that's not a Will Ferrell movie.
Okay, yeah. Then it's Anchorman. Okay.
Why is that not a Will Ferrell movie? Because he's not the main star.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Luke Wilson movie, but
I know, but he had a lot of great quotes in Old School. He was great in Old School, but I see where you're coming from.
Oh yeah, Step Brothers gets a lot of love here, but it's
of course,
it's Anchorman.
Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank's the best. All right, Jamey, you moved David Montgomery up 4 spots. So now Dave had him at RB23 and you had him at 27. I thought we had a little rankings dispute on our hands, but now you both have him at RB23. Why did you move David Montgomery up?
The minicamp reports. Just the fact that it sounds like he's going to be the bell cow. Not that that was a huge surprise, but I think just all the positivity coming out of Houston, just in what they're going to do with him. The fact that they use him as a receiver a little bit more was said also. So it had as much to do with the reshuffling, though, of, like I said, I moved Hubbard and Pollard down, and those two guys were ahead of Montgomery. So moving Montgomery ahead of them as well.
Yeah, I wondered, have you guys been influenced at all by the Zach Charbonnet appearances at practice, and they haven't ruled him out for week 1?
I don't think week 1, but I think that's a huge positive sign for him coming back, like maybe late October, early November. So there was, he may not play at all this season. There was, maybe if they make the playoffs, he's there for a late push to help them get there. I mean, that was huge, to see him out there. So it has to influence you a little bit with Jadarian Price. The fact that, he's still sharing first team reps with George Halani. That was another switch I made, moving Halani ahead of Emmanuel Wilson. I was more Wilson than Halani. So I think that's a positive for Halani if you're looking for a late round pick. But yeah, I think you got to be, worried to some degree about Charbonnet coming back, because when he does, he's going to have some semblance of a role. And look, Price is another guy that had very positive reports in minicamp also about the coaching staff being surprised. I think it was Steve Weiss from the NFL Network speaking to Mike McDonald, that they were really surprised by his pass catching ability, because we didn't see that 15 receptions in his time at Notre Dame. Not exactly the type of numbers you want to see, but I think we all knew that he was capable of it. And
yes,
I think I referenced him on one of the shows, like he had a 30 catch season in high school. And I think you said, Adam, that was probably one game. But he I think proving that he can be, more of just a first and second down guy is big for Price. But look, if Charbonnet is pushing to return sooner than later, whether that's good for his fantasy value or not, it's certainly something that's going to be impactful on Price's, outlook and ADP for sure.
Yeah, let me just get it back to David Montgomery here. Sorry to go off subject here. This is not an insult, but when you think about Montgomery compared to some other players in his range, like younger guys like Scattaboo goes a little bit earlier, Quinshon Judkins, Jadarian Price, he's just kind of boring, isn't he? I mean,
yeah,
you don't get fired up thinking about Montgomery. You're just excited about the opportunity to have more touches than anyone in his range. Is that
why do we love JMO? Because he makes highlight reel plays. What does David Montgomery do? He'll give you a bunch of 5 to 11 yard runs. Will he give you a 30-yard run? Maybe if the defense makes a mistake, he will. But other than that, no, he's a grinder, and he's a 29-year-old grinder at that. But he's a 29-year-old grinder who's had he had 158 carries last year, 350 total carries in the past 2 years. That includes a postseason game. So there's still some tread left on the tire, and he's on a team that likes to play conservatively, got a good defense, probably going to be in a bunch of, situations where he'll get a lot of carries. He's definitely going to be their goal line guy.
Yeah.
And I looked this up. There's been 11 games in the past 2 years when he's had 15 or more touches. He's been north of 15 PPR points in 7 of those 11. Touchdowns have been a factor. I think he's going to score a decent amount of touchdowns. I think he's a good RB2, probably closer to the low end and more interesting in non-PPR and half PPR than full PPR. But he's in a good spot. He's got a great opportunity to put up numbers, and it might be for the last time in his career.
Here's the difference in two guys that we talked about today. Travis Etienne's going to a team that everybody sees as an offense that's on the rise. He's coming off a big season, and there's reason for excitement when you talk about what his capability is and hopefully what his production is. David Montgomery, if this was 2 years ago and he's coming off still a very productive season,
yes.
And now you're saying, okay, he goes from sharing with Jahmyr Gibbs to the featured guy in Houston after what Joe Mixon had just done. Oh my God, there would be a lot more excitement for David Montgomery. Maybe not the same, but there'd be a lot more excitement. You're talking about Montgomery coming off one of the worst year or the worst year of his career, and to a team that feels as boring as it is, plus with a backfield that's really been in shambles since Joe Mixon left. So it's like, oh, why should I get excited about him? Why should I want to draft him? Oh, he's got to score a lot of touchdowns to do it. Will he do it? He's not going to be involved in the passing game. So I think, like, if you're talking about, not to compare the two, but if you're just situations, like if you're talking about gravitating towards somebody, you're going to gravitate toward the guy that looks like he's going to have a huge upside versus the boring-ish type of player.
Right.
Montgomery may end up being like a better value pick for just talking about two guys that change teams.
And just to lay it out here, what did Mixon do in his big year. It was all the way back in 2024. So I know no one here can remember this, but 12 total touchdowns, 17 PPR points per game. I think that's a breakthrough the ceiling type of stat combo for David Montgomery. I don't think he could do that well, but he can still do pretty well. I think he can outperform ADP for sure.
It's such a good point. First of all, Montgomery did average 4.5 yards per carry last year. So if you're going,
nobody looks at that but you.
Well, that's not true. But I was about to say, I mean, it didn't really feel that way. He had one game against Baltimore where he went berserk, but he lost, he lost his role. He became more of a part-time player in the second half.
Cincinnati game, right? That was a big game too.
Cincinnati game, he threw a touchdown.
But that was his homecoming game, right?
It was his homecoming game. He had a 3-touchdown game, I believe. But the Baltimore game, I think he had a 72-yard run in that game. Cincinnati, he had 18 carries, 65 yards. And he had a 2-touchdown game and 1 rushing touchdown, and he threw a touchdown. He scored 20 fantasy points. Baltimore, he scored 29.4. Anyway, Mixon is a good call. I didn't really think about that, but why can't he be Joe Mixon? Mixon averaged 4.1 yards per carry that year. He's never been an efficient player, and he was RB10 per game. But just so many touches, 245 carries and 36 catches in only 14 games for Joe Mixon. Montgomery, in his career, it's just been very obvious. He's been a better rusher when he's had a really good offensive line. And the Texans could have a bad one. They could have an okay one, but it could be bad. It's one of those lines that's really different from last year, and we just don't know. All right. Well, that's it for the rankings disputes. Oh, I know what I was going to say about Montgomery. When you get to where he is in ADP, if you look at Fantasy Pros going 50th, every running back around him has some question marks. Scatterbo, the injury, Travion Henderson, every question mark. DeAndre Swift sharing, Quinshon Judkins coming off an injury, and what's his role in the passing game? The Bajal Tootin, Bucky Irving, right? When you start comparing those guys, though, to the wide receivers going there, I don't know. I feel like maybe people are going to be more inclined to take those wide receivers. Jaylen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Adams, Jameson Williams, DJ Moore, Christian Watson, Mike Evans.
I think it's a mixed bag for both positions, though.
Think so?
Yeah.
My perception is the wide receivers are better there. Jamie thinks kind of even.
But I think if you really want to draft, I don't want to say the best way, but if you like going with hero or anchor RB, whatever you want to call it, whoever you take in round 1, then you load up on receiver 2, 3, 4. You get to this round 5, round 6 range, like you take one of these running backs. That's a pretty good RB2.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So the comment, just had some fun to end the show. Comment I saw in one of our YouTube episodes was that Heath has been slandering hockey a little bit, even though he says he's not, but he is. Someone said that hockey players are the best athletes in sports, which I had never really heard before. I think, first of all, they don't jump. So it's like kind of hard to evaluate them.
Sure, they do. When there's a puck high in the air, they can grab it and put it down on the ice.
They don't jump. And they're on skates. So I give them a little pass there. But my thought, who always blows me away as athletes? Offensive and defensive linemen, especially offensive linemen, because those guys play 100% of the snaps. And the ball gets snapped and they're just smashing a player immediately and maintaining that for seconds over and over and over again. Obviously they sit, but like offensive linemen blow me away with their stamina and the beating that they take throughout a game.
So I've covered many sports as a newspaper guy throughout the years. 2 things that just in something that you said stood out to me. Hockey players. So after a game, you go in the locker room, you talk to players. Hockey players go do cardio right after their games. Wow. And
that's because
first time everyone in the hockey locker room, what the hell is going on? These guys just, flying around the rink and they're doing cardio right after.
They play for 60 seconds at a time.
Yeah, but still, it was a sight to see, to still see them. I don't remember what type of cardio machines they were using at the time. It wasn't Peloton. That's how old I am. But it wasn't, it was just crazy just to see these guys just drenched in sweat, and then they go and they're doing more cardio. Your point about offensive and defensive linemen, typically those guys play a lot of basketball. Football players play a lot of basketball during the week, during the offseason. The offensive linemen dominate like they just, you know, I mean, and I'm not talking about like just post players. Like they get up, they dunk, they're up and down the court. Like for these guys being the size that they are, I remember playing like pickup at Florida, and you know, football players roll in there, and you see them. I'm not on the court with those guys, but like watching them play, like the linemen just flying up and down the court. Like it's incredible what these guys are capable of doing as athletes. Like when you see them up close, when you see them in different sports and different things that they do, like it's nuts.
Dave, who are the best athletes in sports?
I would say, like by sport, I don't know if I have an answer for that, but I think about 5-tool players in baseball, do-it-all players in basketball, and I think about track athletes a lot, and the people that can run a triathlon, decathlon, like those are probably the best athletes around.
I think I'm gonna settle on wide receivers. They run so much. They have to have a combination of physicality and speed, hand-eye coordination. But actually, the answer that a lot of people have given in the chat is WWE wrestlers, and that's probably the winner.
I mean, NASCAR drivers are probably the best athletes. Golfers,
yeah, golfers for sure. I mean, the way they
hot dog eating contest.
drive those.
I was very impressed watching a few years ago, 10 plus years ago, I guess at this point, when LeBron and Kevin Durant played flag football against each other.
Oh, how'd that go?
I mean, it was awesome.
Oh, that must have been cool. Obviously, LeBron played high school football. Yeah, Michael says, I think guys who analyze fantasy football are the best athletes. Completely agree.
So you were a backup goalie on your high school team, right?
It was the best.
Yeah, I played baseball in high school. Dave was once approached by a college football coach to play offensive line.
Really?
Yep.
Not at Miami.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Never heard this story?
We sucked. We were terrible back then, huh?
Yeah. Well, we didn't have anybody to give scholarships to. So they were desperate for anybody.
That's so crazy. That I was going to say funny, by the way.
You know who the coach was? This
Mario Cristobal?
No, Larry Coker. It was Larry Coker when he was an assistant.
Oh my gosh!
Stopped me in the food hall because, of course, I'm going to be there. And he goes, "Hey, big guy, you ever think about playing football? Want to play for the Miami Hurricanes? We'll pay your tuition." Said it all right then and there, and took it back to my parents, and they said, "That's fine if you want to go do it, but then when you get beat up, we're not paying the hospital bills, and when they kick you off the team because you're too beat up, we're not paying your tuition." So I didn't play football, but I went to a lot of games, so almost the same thing.
I think that's one of the craziest stories I've ever heard on this show.
I can get it confirmed for you by my buddies anytime you want, because no one believes it. Jamie used to not believe it either.
No, I believe it.
Yeah.
Because
they were in such a terrible spot back
terrible.
then. They just needed bodies.
Yeah.
So I could have gotten my ass beat up by Ray Lewis.
Yeah, but Dave, you're what, 6'2", 6'3"?
6'3", and when I'm in decent shape, I'm at like 260.
Yeah,
These
but
days, not even close.
But decent shape, they would put 50 pounds on you of muscle and obviously weight to get you bigger, because that's what would happen immediately. Is
probably
you wouldn't be 6'2", 6'3", 260 playing football. You'd be 6'3", probably 290.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that would have helped from a scout team standpoint. That would have helped from, you know, maybe gets you on the field at some point. Like, you never know. Like, they would have certainly put you through the motions of getting you football ready.
Yeah.
The Hurricanes have gone from asking Dave Richard to be an offensive to playing in the national championship game. What an accomplishment. And finally, all of you have been saying you're surprised I haven't talked about the Knicks. I don't want to be that annoying. It's pretty amazing. The whole
it's very cool.
State, was into it. The whole town that I live in, I mean, Knicks stuff everywhere.
All right.
The whole family stayed up and watched too. That was cool.
Where does it rank in all-time championships for you? Because you've seen a few Yankees, you've seen a few Giants.
Yeah.
Obviously, first Knicks one.
Giants, number one. Giants 07, number one.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be.
I would say maybe Yankees 96, because that was really the first one for me. Like, I think I'm at a stage in my life where it's just not quite as meaningful as it used to be.
Really?
Like when you're a kid, or when you're early 20s to college, that's when I was the most rabid sports fan my sports timeline. So this would be second or third. Giants 07 was the best. Even though I like the Knicks more than the Giants, this would be right there with 96 Yankees. The Hurricanes beat the snot out of Nebraska. So like in 01, that was like whatever. We were so good.
Yeah.
If the Hurricanes had won, if the Hurricanes had beaten Indiana, that would have been number one overall. I was much more into that than I was the Knicks. And I was super into the Knicks. Don't get me wrong. But this was cool because my whole family watched. It was really late.
Your son a Knicks fan now?
He's a Knicks fan. He stayed up. He was awesome. My daughter is 6. She just turned 6. And most 6-year-olds are asleep at like 8, you know? So it was almost midnight, I think, this game was going on. And she was great the entire game. She was drawing pictures, making Knicks bracelets for us. And with about a minute left, she starts melting down. A minute left with game 5. It's super close. We're like,
a minute left. You had it won then, right?
No, it was like a 2-point game.
Were they have 5 by that point?
I don't know.
Not quite. Not with a minute left. It was
No.
like oscillating between 2 and 4 points.
I don't think they ever went up 5. They ended up winning by 4.
Yeah.
And so it was like a 1-possession game, and she's just so tired. She's like, I don't care who wins anymore. I don't care about the game. We're like, come on. But you know how long a minute takes in an NBA game. So we have a picture. It's like, we got to take a picture to commemorate the moment. We got the TV in the background. Me, my wife, and my son are smiling, and my daughter is like hysterically crying.
That's great.
Great moment in time. All right. That's
just because the way you framed it as not as important to you, the CBS Sports TikTok account. Do you see what they did?
Oh, that was amazing.
That really was amazing.
Yeah.
The thing with the person growing up, whatever.
Yep.
I said that to my friend. I was like, "Is this not us?" Every Knicks fan felt that. And the Knicks, I would say, are the most popular team in New York because like no one cares about them.
Right. They bring the city together.
There's no device in this.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. It was still amazing.
I've been friends with Knicks fans all my life, and when they won the championship, they were crying and they were so happy. I was thinking that you were going to feel the same way.
I was super happy. I really was.
Well, I mean, that's how I felt each of the 6 times the Bulls won the championship in the 90s.
So what's your
you get a little bit of a
New York athletes now?
Mount Rushmore of New York athletes from my lifetime. I'm not going to say like Babe Ruth, Jeter, Rivera, Eli Manning.
It's got to be Brunson.
Patrick Ewing.
Oh.
He's a better player than Jalen Brunson.
Oh, stop.
No.
He's a better player.
No.
Yes.
You're telling on yourself. This is terrible.
I know no one was gonna believe that. I'm not a hockey guy, but I think a lot of people put Mark Messier on there too. Mark Messier.
Well, I mean, if you had to do one for every sport, it would be
Jeter.
I think he just
Messier,
did.
Manning.
no. You put 2 Yankees on there.
Well, right. So he's got to pick between Jeter and Mariano.
Jeter, Messier, Manning, and I would say Ewing, but I understand the whole championship thing, and you'd have to go with Brunson then.
Man, no love for Keyshawn.
Charlie Ward.
Charlie Ward, yeah, definitely. All right, thanks
Being a
so
great
much for listening to my ramblings, and go watch Anchorman. Talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.